This podcast is produced by OnPod, a video content studio near you.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the studio. Today we are here with Myriam, the owner of Piece Counselling and Psychotherapy. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Kristen.
Of course, yeah. Excited to get into it. I haven't been to therapy in a while, so it'll be great to talk to you.
I'll bring you through therapy, don't worry.
Sounds great. What are the current challenges you see with your clients? What do you observe with everything that's going on in the economy and our society right now? What are your clients coming to you to talk about the most right now?
A lot of people are coming in kind of like at the bottom of the bottom.
Okay.
Kind of just trying to find a way back to themselves. And once we start to uncover, we're noticing a lot of like childhood neglect, childhood abuse, whether it be verbal and emotional. Some abuse was physical, but I find a lot of it was in terms of like controlling the mind and the ways in which people show it up or try to show up for their lives.
Okay.
And so kind of recovering from that and trying to figure out like what is the best ways to move forward in their lives and noticing the impact, how it's impacting how they interact with others, how they interact with themselves. A lot of people are challenged with work as well. I'm noticing like a lot of people want to work, but working with others is challenging. Right. And so when you're trying to do your work, but other people are not, then it makes it hard for you to like know how to navigate certain situations. So there's a lot of workplace challenges happening, a lot of burnout, a lot of stress for sure. People are just tired with everything happening in the world and then kind of individually as well. And just, post-COVID, everybody's trying to come back to themselves in a way, but COVID was so destabilizing.
Yeah.
That people are still trying to figure out like what am I doing with myself in my life and what does life even mean. So kind of like a whole like existential crisis as well. What else are people showing up for? Kind of also like a lot of shame, self-esteem, trying to come back to themselves in a way where they find themselves being like more authentic because they noticed that there were a lot of people-pleasing tendencies or the ways in which they've just done things because others told them to, but not because they wanted to. And that's left them depleted and burnt out. And I can definitely relate to that as well.
Yeah, me too.
And I think it's a lot more common than we talk about it. So that's most of the things that people are showing up for.
Okay, so definitely a lot, but there's something that I heard once. It was like every problem is an interpersonal problem. So that kind of makes sense. Like when you're dealing with people, like we all just want to be loved and accepted, but it's very hard. To come to terms with that.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Somebody had, I was working with, she was saying like, like we heal through people, we also hurt through relationships, right?
True.
And so that's why it's an interpersonal problem. It's never just you by yourself. It's how in which others are saying certain things and how you might internalize that or kind of like project that onto others. That's what it is.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're not consistently putting yourself out with those people, there's no way that you can learn from your mistakes and see what kind of patterns that you go on from that. So you find when people come in, they're at the bottom of the bottom.
Usually.
Is there any kind of signs that you would tell to look out for or tell someone to look out for before they get to that rock bottom state to just come into therapy anyways? Or
I find when people are like isolating themselves a lot, kind of like thinking they need to deal with it themselves, and there's a lot of pressure attached to it. A lot of people, like, again, when they're coming like the bottom to the bottom, a lot of the times it's like having like severe panic attacks. And so noticing if you're having a lot of like anxiety challenges or if you're just noticing you're just like crying all the time.
Right.
That's another one. A lot of people are just like, I can't stop crying. And I'm just like, it's fair. You've tried to deal with it by yourself for so long, and it adds so much pressure, and there needs to be a release of some sort, right? And there's so much negative association with like crying. And so when people are crying, they're like, oh, I feel so stupid for crying. It's like, no, you need to release. You need to find a way to kind of get it out. And crying is one of the ways in which that shows up. So
yeah, for sure. Don't you like release cortisol out of your tears? But yeah, it definitely sucks when you think you can solve all your problems, but you only have that specific narrative in your head. Like at a certain point, there's things beyond your control that you need to learn because you don't have all the tools yourself. So it's great to, reach out even if you don't think you need therapy right away. If those signs are coming up, like you said, definitely reach out to a therapist.
Yeah, and
like
I think yes, like me. And so I think a lot of people think they need to, like just deal with it by themselves because people like, I don't know, we live in a world where like everything is just you, and so you have to be the solution to your problems. But
Yeah.
these problems did not come from you; they came with other people, and so you need to be able to solve them with other people as well.
That's true.
And so, and I think the idea of what people think of therapy is kind of just coming into vent or just talking about your feelings. But it's like, yes, that's exactly, like in some ways that is what it is, but you're also kind of taking the time to hear yourself, right? It's not just about, oh, I'm just talking to somebody. It's like, no, you're actually talking to yourself. And the person who's in front of you is helping you see certain things in a way where you might not have been able to see it. And I've seen that in clients too. Like they'll go into narratives and I'm just like, and I'll let them speak, obviously. But then it's kind of like, okay, like I get what you're saying, but I'm wondering if this is also the shame playing out. Right. Like, and then you kind of like, oh, you're right. This is actually like not my own voice. This is what I think certain things some people want from me, or it's what I think some people have told me before. So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like you said before, you grew up with parents that kind of sometimes implanted something in your mind, and then you feel like you have to live by those parameters, but you don't have to.
No.
Like, you can go beyond that. And it's tough to know that that voice inside your head is not always you. Like, what voice is that? It's just the algorithms that your brain is putting out, right? So it's like, okay, it's time to feed it some new information.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So are there emerging barriers to mental health care you wish more people understood or talked about?
I guess some of the barriers that I'm thinking of right now is just like the idea of what therapy is. People have this idea of what it is, like I said, just coming into vent and talking about it, but no, it is very much you having your space for yourself. And if you have a good therapist, then they'll be able to really give you that space to uncover a lot. I think a lot of people, I was talking about it with a client yesterday, it was kind of just like people don't know where to look as well. And people don't think that they also have the right to look or to find help. And so I think that's another barrier. Cost. Therapy is not cheap.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's be real. And so if it's not like funded by the government, let's say through a program that's also maybe short term, so you're not really getting all of the support that you would like to have, maybe if it's a year long that you get through private practice, if it's like public services. But then if you don't have insurance, then it might be also harder for you to be able to get that private support that you would need and have that long-term, like 1 year, 2 year support that you would be looking for. And then that's again, like if you don't work with a therapist who offers sliding scales, like a bit more of a lower fee just to be able to accommodate, then that's another barrier too. What are some other emerging barriers?
Yeah, to jump in, is there any resources that you would recommend, like any grants or even insurances that you can purchase to kind of negate some of the costs of therapy? Or
That's a good thought. I'm not familiar with much right now. I know if it doesn't come from your employer, then like it can be a little bit more expensive to look into it. Because even for myself, like I have to look outside for my own therapy, for my own insurance, because I'm self-employed.
Right.
But then you look at like what they offer you in terms of what you're paying for $100 a month and what they're covering, and I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with like $750? Like it's not enough for what I need, right? And so I think that's another barrier for people as well.
For sure.
I don't know. What's your question?
Yeah, no, like any emerging barriers. But I do find that even if you do, have one therapy session a month, do you find that that would be worthwhile to come in and talk about things?
Yeah.
Kind of give your clients a framework of maybe this is what you could do week by week if you did want to improve on some of your processes and get past some stuff.
Yeah. And I think I do think at least once a month is supporting, depending on where you are, right? And that's the thing too. When I work with clients, if we're really trying to like work on a problem or an issue that's like present, it's like, okay, every 1 or 2 weeks, we can kind of like be on top of it. But as things get better, you can start like pushing it out to 3 weeks to once a month. And then eventually it's kind of like, okay, just maintenance, checking in here and there every 3 months. But if you're just wanting to try it out and you're not sure where to, once a month is good for you, because what it does, it gives you the time to kind of process certain things as they're happening throughout the month, and you can come back and be like, oh yeah, like I've noticed certain things, right? And it's a way to kind of just flesh out some of the things that are happening, because there's a lot that happens in a day, let alone 30 days.
That's true. That's very true.
So yeah, it could be a good way to kind of just like clear certain things out, and you don't have to bottle it up all the time. Yeah.
But I want to go back to what you said too. Like sometimes therapy it's good to vent, but again, you kind of pinpoint the problems that are reoccurring, which is causing people's problems in everyday life. So you get that stance, but then you also offer tools like cognitive behavior therapy and kind of ways to shift that narrative in your mind as well. So it's not just about venting all the time. I'm sure, if you did have that once a month and you went in with a plan, like this is my problem, or sometimes people even, do you think journaling helps?
It helps me.
Yeah.
Yes, I do think it helps, because for me, it's like you can't lie to yourself when you're writing.
True.
And that's why a lot of people avoid it, I find.
Yeah.
Or some people say it doesn't work. But for me, it does work, and I have seen it work, and I know how people are kind of just able to kind of like write things out. And some of my clients too, like I'll be like, okay, like sometimes they'll like, yeah, I journal, but they kind of just like brain dump. I'm like, okay, that's not bad.
Right.
But if you want something more structured, like I'll offer them like a few pointers based off of the themes that show up.
Okay.
And then once they write it out, they come back with more content. I'm like, okay, this is good. Now we get to like flesh this out a little bit more and explore it together. So it does give us a space to understand certain things and for you to just be honest with yourself.
Okay. If someone didn't have the resources to go to a therapist today, are there any journaling prompts you would recommend to have them write out?
That's a good thought. I guess it would be just like, what's a good thing I'm thinking right now? Like if I'm thinking a daily like checklist, it's kind of like, okay, what happened today that made me feel like happy or whole? Okay, what happened today that made me feel a little bit more like, I guess, sad, for lack of better words, or a little bit more shame or something like that. And then it's kind of like, okay, and how did that impact me?
Okay.
Right? How did that impact my mood? How did that impact the ways in which I showed up in this relationship? And then maybe looking at like, what are some things that I want to do differently for the next day? It doesn't have to be for the next week. It can just be like for tomorrow. What is something that I want to be able to do differently? Mm-hmm. So it all depends on like the context in which I would throw out the journaling prompts. But I think as a daily routine, that could be like just a quick check-in.
Yeah, I like that for sure. I think I've even heard of apps that do that. Like you go through your day and like, what happened today? How am I feeling? And then there's like a scale of like smiley face to like really mad face, you know what I mean? So maybe that could be helpful.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, you get to see the patterns. I feel like a big thing with journaling is that you'll have to like look back into your journals, not just like throw it under the bed and forget to read it. Because through those journals, you kind of get to see your patterns a little bit more. Again, it's probably better if a therapist points it out, but I'm sure you'd be able to figure out, certain things.
Yeah.
If you wrote it down.
And even for myself too, like sometimes I'll write things down, like let's say 3 months ago, and I'll go back to it. I'm like, wow, I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm having the same day over again. I do that too.
So then I'm like, okay, something needs to change, because and it's like, as much as things have changed, I'm still kind of feeling like I'm writing the same thing in some ways. So I'm like, okay, what am I doing that's not allowing me to be in a completely different emotional space? And I think that's what journal helps with. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. And I guess a good thing too is not to be frustrated with yourself if you do see the same day happening over again, because when it comes down to it, you're the one that realized it. So it's good that you realized, and you can kind of move on from that.
Right. And if we're noticing too, like, I don't know, we are playing out the same day. Like we wake up for work at the same time, for the most of us at least. And then we have our work routine, we have our kids routine, we have our personal routines. Like the routines are usually the same. And so it would be normal for us to be able to feel like we're in the same space from 3 months ago. But I think if we don't like the space that we're in, and we're noticing like we've been in that for too long, then it's time to kind of assess and see like, okay, what needs to be challenged here?
Right. Sounds good. Yeah. It's natural to be in the same rhythm. Like there's a lot of things we can't control. That makes total sense. So for yourself, you support others through a lot of deep emotional work. How do you set boundaries and create space to nurture your own well-being?
It's taken time, but I think over time I've found my rhythm a little more. I know that like on in-person sessions, when I have like long days, at the end of my like at the end of the day, like usually I go in the car and I want silence. I don't want the radio. I don't want music. I want absolutely silence, just because there's so much thoughts that I've absorbed and so many emotions that I've absorbed. So that's kind of my way of kind of just letting go. Sometimes I'll go, like, if it's been like a really tough session, maybe I'll go for a run. Doesn't happen all the time, but I might go do a little exercise sometimes, just to kind of like, release some of that extra pent up energy that's not my own. What else have I do? Journaling is something that I do a lot of. I've like started to do like my own like shea butters.
Okay.
So like, because I've noticed like lotions don't really work with me. And so creating my own has been very therapeutic in some ways too. What else do I do for self-care? Yeah, I think just kind of also noticing that, like, while I'm empathizing and I'm making space for somebody else's like challenges to be heard and to be expressed, noticing that they're not always my own as well. And in some ways you want to jump in as the hero and be like, oh, I want to fix all your problems, but that's not what I can do.
Yeah.
And it's just making sure that the client is able to see that they can be their own
They're their
hero.
own heroes.
Yes. Yeah. Their own hero. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you always been able to separate that? Because for myself, sometimes this is like really cheesy, but if someone's crying, like I just feel like I need to feel what they're feeling. And then like you kind of like, how do you know what to say without enveloping yourself in their world? I know we just kind of talked about that, but how do you dissociate really?
Dissociating. That's a good one. Yeah. That is kind of what it is though sometimes. And it's not in like, how do I say this? It depends. Like, it depends. Okay. So for example, I've had a client, it depends on the age range. So like sometimes I work with youth as well. And so like 14, 15, 16-year-olds. And so sometimes like you could just tell like they're in distress. So like their home environment is not it. So it's tough for them, right?
Yeah.
And I empathize with that version of me who was also in a similar place as them.
Yeah.
And so recently I had a client, it was maybe our first session. And we're kind of just like, exploring things bit by bit. And I asked a question and she got quiet and just kind of like a release came out. And I felt my body kind of wanting to jump and like hug her.
Yeah.
But I was like, ooh, okay, Myriam, step back. This is not your own.
Yeah.
So you kind of just like allow them to have that space, but you don't judge it. You just allow it to be. And then you check it and you're like, okay, like, are you okay? What's happening for you right now? You just want to like get them to like understand that it's okay for them to be in this space, even though it's tough.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, it all depends, but I think it's just allowing the emotions to be there.
Yeah.
And then making sure that like there's space for the person to be able to process that. And then once you see that they've shifted from one state to another, then you kind of come back and you're like, okay, like what was that about? Like what's happening for you? And yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess it's important to realize too, like they're the ones going through it, not you. Like even I was like tearing up. I was like, shut up, Kristen, it's not even my problem right now. Like, and it's, you have to like kind of, box yourself in and say, this is their problem to go through and I have to be there to kind of support. And so that's tough. And I really appreciate what you do.
Thank you. It is tough, but it's rewarding to know that like people trust you with that stuff as well. And it's kind of just like, okay, like this is why I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. You went through your self-care practices a little bit. You like running, you like complete silence. Cause I have heard that, when you have a very busy environment, it's great to have silence. Like if you're alone and isolated all day, you do the opposite. You go out and talk to people for a little bit more self-care. So that's good. You have some rituals. When do you know you need extra support for yourself?
Yeah. I'll usually know when like I'm in a meeting or a conversation and I'm just noticing like a lot of my own emotions showing up.
Right.
And like I kind of start asking myself like, why is this actually happening? And so when I get to a space where I'm just noticing the emotions are showing up in like spaces that they're not supposed to, like I'll be in a business meeting and the emotions are showing up and I'm like, oh, okay, something needs to be explored here. So once I get to that space, then like I'll reach out to my therapist and I'll just be like, hey, Lisa, I need help.
Yeah. Fair enough. So even a therapist needs a therapist.
Yes,
right?
of course.
Probably especially therapists need therapists.
Yeah. And it kind of humbles you to be able to be in that client space of not always having to be the expert, the one with the tools, the one with the resources who knows what to do. It kind of just allows you to be like, yeah, like I can be here as well and just explore my own world And once I do that, it also gives me more space to handle other people's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably nice to be able to have that space and be like, okay, I can actually just let go here and like they can have the tools for me and I can just,
It relieves a lot of the pressure of like, oh, you're a therapist, you should know this. I'm like, I should, and I know that I should, but I'm also human first. And I had a childhood and I had experiences before I came into this role. So these things are going to shape me in a lot of different ways as well.
Everyone handles things differently for
Exactly.
sure. Yeah. Okay. So your practice is known for integrating creative and evidence-based tools. What are a few of your go-to techniques or resources to help clients manage their anxiety, stress, or burnout?
One of the things I like to use is, you mentioned CBT. So I like to use CBT in a way that allows us to tap into the emotions, not necessarily just staying with the thoughts. But one of the things that I noticed is with people with anxiety, they overthink a lot, or there's a lot of like, just a lot of thoughts happening, right? And so there's a tool called unhelpful thinking patterns. And so what we do is we kind of try to label them and understand like where are we, like, what are they called? Like, are we doing all or nothing thinking right now? Are we jumping to conclusions? Are we doing emotional reasoning? And so when clients are able to understand a little bit more of their thoughts and what kind of like patterns they're in, they're able to be aware of them when they show up. And they're like, oh, okay, like I'm doing this again, right? And then it kind of just sparks that awareness and it's like, okay, and now we figure out what do we want to do differently, right? And a lot of the times that comes from a space of like inner critic, and that comes from like being criticized a lot or being told certain things and you internalizing them as you grow older. And so it's learning how to become more compassionate towards yourself. And so if I know that, you know, I'm calling myself stupid for not being able to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning every day, then it's kind of like, okay, how do we speak to ourselves in a way that motivates us and supports us to do the thing we want to do rather than like putting ourselves down. So that's one thing that I like to do. Stress and burnout. A lot of the time, stress and burnout is because people are kind of like, they're like overcapacity. There's a lot of things happening and they don't know how to manage it all. And so it's kind of just scaling back and seeing what is in your control right now, right? Not everything is in your control. And I see you're deep breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to have control of everything, but we can't, right? And it's like you can write it down, like, okay, I have my exam today. I have, I don't know, 3 dogs to feed. Like, there's a lot happening, right? It's like within all of these situations, what can you do, right? Everything else, you can't do everything. So kind of scaling back and trying to see what it is that you have agency over.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of people right now that have a full-time job, so they've got kids to take care of. Parenting is a 24/7 job, you know, like you're thinking about it even while you're at work. You know, you've got your boss, your full-time job, and your kids, and say, like you said, maybe dogs. So like, you know, how would you convince someone that it's better to take some time for yourself than being there for all of these people all the time?
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't want to say it's convincing, because the goal is not to convince people, because it's like, it feels like a little manipulative in some ways, but you want people to be able to see it for themselves.
Yeah.
And so a lot of reflecting back what they are saying, like if they're telling me, yeah, you know, like I have 3 kids to take care of, and then I have to go to work and my boss is like annoying, and like being the manager, then I have to manage all these people, and it's like I get home and have to manage all these kids and a husband or a wife, you know what I mean? And then I have these dogs that are like crying because they want to go outside, and I can deal with, I relate to that. And so it's just, it becomes a lot. And so once they're kind of like venting it out to you, you kind of reflect it back to them in a way where you're kind of like, wow, like it sounds like you're dealing with a lot right now, you know? And you kind of just allow space for compassion and for them to recognize like, oh, right, you're right, I am dealing with a lot. And they become a lot more like compassionate towards themselves and be like, yeah, like this is a lot to deal with, and I don't know, like I didn't realize that, you know? And so yeah, I think that's one of the ways in which I would do it.
For sure. Yeah. And I want to clarify, not that anyone cares, but this is not my problem, but I really sympathize, because like I could never deal with that, you know what I mean? But another thing, I think if you kind of hold that space for yourself, kind of raise more empathetic kids, because they know that you need to take time, space for yourself, and then you can delegate, and they're okay to do things on their own as well. And so that's good. Yeah. It's always good to. And
I have like, again, like with some of the kids that I work with, like one of them thinking right now, she's been like, I would have been okay if my mom was okay. You know what I mean? Like, I know I need therapy, but my mom needs therapy. And if she actually got the help she needed, then like I'd be in a better space, because the parents create the environment. We're so dependent on our parents that like whatever they say, we has to go. So they need to be in a space where they're taking care of themselves, so that their kids are able to be able to see that, right? They have to be able to model what care and love looks like, so that, and like towards self first, so that the kids can also know what it looks like and how to do it for themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a big burden in itself, to be able to to think that you have to be okay so that your mom's okay, or something like that. So, we just want everyone to be okay.
Right. And that's what kids do, right? Like how do I say this? Kids can't like perceive things outside of themselves that much, right? And so whatever happens, they think it's as a result of them. And so they internalize it all. And because of that, they'll just be like, okay, well, if mom feels angry when I don't know, ask for a cookie, I'm just not going to ask for a cookie anymore.
Yeah.
But then that means I'm silencing myself, and I'm not expressing or asking for the things that I want to have, right? And I can understand having a cookie over, in a disciplined way, where it's like maybe not now, but in like 2 hours. But if it's like there's anger attached to it, then like I don't want to see mom angry, and that makes me feel like I'm the one causing her anger. So I'm just gonna not ask for it at all.
Yeah. Every problem is an interpersonal problem.
Yes, it really is. It really is.
We are so social and funny. Humans are so cute.
And I think we're a lot more complicated than we would like to. And I think we know we're complicated, but I don't think we want to admit it.
Yeah. It's nice to forget about that and just kind of be sometimes. But it's important to kind of go into those groups of the mind that are causing you problems. Therapy.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So you also have you created a community with other therapists, thoughtful therapist, right? Okay. You're committed to making mental health care more accessible and engaging. What are some innovative approaches you found effective to breaking down those barriers?
So with thoughtful therapist, so she's still my baby. She's like my startup. And with thoughtful therapist, the goal is to make mental health more accessible, engaging, and relatable, right? And so in being able to make, how do I say this? Therapy more engaging, or the idea of mental health more engaging, it's kind of bringing it out of the standard one-on-one therapy space that we're used to seeing, but bringing it into like social spaces, bringing it into like everyday spaces where people can know that they can have mental health conversations and break down some of those stigmas and those barriers in everyday life situations, right? So that when people are feeling like they're burdened with something, they don't feel like they need to come to a therapist. They know that they can have a space where they can have natural conversations and they can feel supported with others, right? Even though they're not mental health professionals, they can still find some support and some validation for what it is that they're experiencing. And then once they're ready, ideally, they can come seek a therapist who can really support them with like proper tools. But yeah, that's kind of like ways in which I'm trying to make, using thoughtful therapists to make therapy more engaging, or mental health more engaging.
Okay, that's really awesome. So thoughtful therapist is not just for therapists.
No,
it's for everybody.
No, it's supposed to be for therapists. So the idea, thoughtful therapist. Okay, I don't know. This might go into the edits, but so the way that I started Thoughtful Therapist was in 2022. I started it with my private practice, but then over time I noticed that I wanted to do something different with it, so I had to separate the two. And so when I started Piece by Piece, that was like, okay, this is really just me doing psychotherapy, individual work, workshops, working with organizations. Thoughtful Therapist is meant to make use social media as a way to promote mental health awareness, making more engaging and have more creativity. But the goal is to have a platform where people are able to work on their own mental health through the lens of a therapeutic platform. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like sometimes you don't want to burden your friends with these kind of things.
Yes.
You go to a space that actually, yes, this is what we're all talking about here.
Exactly.
No matter what you say, like, we're not going to hold it against you.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so the goal is to have mental health therapists that are accessible on the platform for folks to know where to look for them as well.
Okay.
But the goal is also for people to learn how to the tools that people learn in therapy, it's kind of like ideally they can learn it through the platform as well. So that can reduce some of those barriers of having to go through a therapist, because we talked about cost, we talked about not knowing where to go. And so if there's a space where people are able to gain some of those tools and resources, then they can start to like care and learn how to do it for themselves.
Yeah. So that's the answer.
Yes.
If cost is a little bit of a problem, look at a thoughtful therapist.
Exactly.
That's really nice.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And it's crazy how like there is still stigma around therapy, even though we talk about mental health a lot. Like it's starting to get talked a lot more in businesses and in a work setting, and burnout is huge, like, especially in this economy, how, we're always kind of struggling and we never have money in our accounts, some of us anyway. But yeah, so it's good to know that it's becoming more normal and it's okay to talk about these things.
Yeah. And people are open to it for sure, but I think even with the openness, people are still reluctant for themselves. It's like, I can talk about it for you, but when it comes to me, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm okay here. I don't need help.
But yeah, you should be vulnerable if someone else is being vulnerable. There's got to be
Exactly. Some balance. Yeah, some balance.
Or else you're just going to get blackmailed. Just kidding. I don't know. But it's, if you tell someone something that you're worried about, I feel like that's what people are worried about. They don't want to come back and get judged or have it thrown against them. But, not in this space. There's spaces that you can talk openly, and it's, people are actually like yourself, how to deal with these situations, and you're around other people that can put parameters and help navigate, if that makes any sense. No, it doesn't.
I mean, I think so. I think I just thought of something else. I blacked out for a little bit, but you could repeat if you want.
No, it's good. We can cut that too.
Okay.
But
sure.
Okay. So why is it so important to integrate community and creativity into mental health work today?
I guess in terms of community, I think it's going back to what we talked about, like we're interpersonal beings, right? Everything is interpersonal. And so when you think about community, it's like it's communion and unity. It's kind of coming together as one, right? And so being able to see that community is a space where we can come together and have these conversations, and we can heal together and we can learn from each other, right? It's like you have your own experiences and that's created your own lessons. And rather than me having to try to fend for myself and figuring out how to do it, you could lend me some insights and wisdom, and I can be like, wow, this is really good. Maybe I can see how I can apply that for myself, right? And so this is where we kind of learn how to do it together. And it's not like we're, again, fending for ourselves, we're fending together. And then in terms of creativity, that just makes more space for fun. I think when things are too rigid, people are not willing to participate. But if it feels more light, it feels more light-spirited, if it feels more open, then people are able to, just engage in it a little bit more, and it feels more free, and it feels more like it's tailored to me rather than just I have to follow these steps.
Yeah. If you crack a dark joke, maybe nobody's going to look at you too crazy.
Exactly.
How do you navigate if someone was going to jump in with your story? You know how sometimes people will try to relate too much to you and then kind of spin off into their own story? How do you kind of keep that from happening?
That's so interesting. That's a good thought. In therapy or in general?
Maybe both, whatever you think.
Right.
Because I feel like as a therapist, you're kind of trained to not do that. Like you won't do that.
We're trained not to talk about ourselves, but when we do, it's always relating it back to the client.
Okay.
So if I do it in this therapeutic space, like if you're talking to me about conflict you have with a family member, I'll listen, I'll validate, and I'll be like, okay, well, you know what? It's funny because I was in a similar position. And clients are very receptive when you talk about yourself because it shows the human side of you.
Yeah.
And so when you bring it back, and I always tell them I'm going to talk about myself for a second, but I'll bring it back to you, And so I'll talk about it and then I'll bring it back and they'll be like, yeah, there's a lot of there's more insight and more thoughts that come from it. And so you want to do it in a way where the person can see themselves in the story that you're explaining and not just oh, it's my turn to talk now.
No, yeah, for sure. And I feel like in that situation, one, it's a sense of camaraderie. This person you're safe to talk about these issues with someone like you, because you've been through it before. And in another sense, it's like positive motivation as well, because if you've gone through it, if you've figured out how to get to the other side, they can also do that.
Right.
So I'm sure that's very nice for them to have to see. And it gives a sense of confidence.
Yes, sense of confidence. And like even recently I finished with a client for like, we did 2 years of work, and like on our last session, it was kind of just like, you know what, like just knowing that like we had similar experiences in some ways, it really helped her in her process of knowing that like you can get to the other side. So clients are big, they become very grateful for the fact that you show that side of you, you're not always hiding it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What encouragement or advice would you offer? I know we talked a little bit about what are the signs that you do need to go see a therapist, but how would you convince them? I know you said anyway, how would you encourage them to do so?
How to encourage clients or people to seek therapy. Yeah. I think one thing is noticing like there's a lot of strength in showing up for therapy, because it's not easy to come talk to somebody that you don't know, right? But at the end of the day, like I said, it's not about you talking to somebody you don't know. It's about talking to yourself and being honest with yourself. And we're lending you that space to be able to explore and to understand how things happen. And so if you're not sure about taking this first step, I think it's just exploring what is around you. Maybe talking to people who have sought help and seeing what their experiences were like. And some things too, like, you're not always going to find so for some clients, they do find like the right therapist the first time, but don't get discouraged if it doesn't work the first time, right? There are other people that you can seek help from. There are other people that you can find who can support you. And so that's one ways I would encourage people learning more about what it is that they're challenged with, and kind of understanding like, am I ready to accept this challenge and to seek therapy? Because it's another part of therapy. There's a sense of readiness that you need to be able to be in, or else like, and I'm thinking of people myself that I've worked with who they want to explore certain things, but they're afraid, right? And so you need to know like, am I really ready to dive deeper into this, right? And then something else too, like, and I'm thinking about friends of my own who have like challenges to seek out help. And I'm like, at some point, like, you're going to get tired of yourself. You're going to get tired of your BS. You know what I mean? And so if you're there and you're noticing that where you're at is not fulfilling enough, then at some point you're going to need to like take that step and be like, okay, like, I want to be in a different space within 3 months. And I think that's the thing too. People don't forget that like the help that you seek can bring you along further sooner than you think. People think that like it needs to happen in like a year, but sometimes it actually needs to happen in like 6 months, right? And I see it with clients too. Within 3 months, like you can start to see the changes. It's not big, but it's like it's changes, and they're able to notice it, right? Whether it be being able to like shower a few days during the week, whether it be being able to just, cook your meals that way that you would like to. Like, it's small, but it actually makes a big impact on your mood and how you show up for yourself in the days. So, at some point you're just going to have to get over yourself and take that step.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good advice. One last thing. What about someone who was, I don't want to say forced into therapy, but say a parent was saying, okay, like something's got to change with you. There's something wrong. Like you're depressed, you're not eating, or you're very anxious. This isn't going to fly in life. And then someone is forced into therapy. Would you have any recommendations for them to kind of be a little bit more accepting? I know you said you have to like be ready to accept help, but is there anything that you would say to a person in that situation?
Even if like your parents are like putting you, like they're forcing you into therapy, and you're like, and I work with like some youth who are court mandated as well. So they kind of like, they are forced, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll listen to what it is that they did that got them into our sessions. And I'll just be like, okay, like, but what do you really want to work on?
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes the parents think it's this X, Y, and Z, but it's ABC.
Right.
Right. And so how do I actually work with the ABC so that the X, Y, and Z can get fixed over time? Right. And so, that's kind of one of the things. It's like, you want to, even if they're telling you, okay, you want to show up for the depression, but I'm noticing that it's actually like I have a hard time with my parents and I don't know how to navigate it. So I show up depressed and that's what they're seeing. Well, we're going to work on how your relationship with your parents is impacting you and what you want to do differently. And over time, those depression symptoms will work themselves out.
And I'm sure that's also very nice. Like it does separate them from the kind of entity that's making them go to therapy. It's like, I'm here for you. You're there for them. First and
Exactly.
foremost.
Exactly.
You don't care how they got there. It's like whatever you want to work on. So that makes it a little bit more personable and like someone's actually on your side.
Yeah. And it's funny because like when I was saying, like the court mandated kids, like I've seen one, like there was one kid who got referred to me once. He got referred to me twice. I looked at him like, why are we here?
Yeah.
Why are we back? And he was like, honestly, unemployment. And I said, okay, let's work on that. You know what I mean? And then we worked on it. We worked on his resume. We worked on interview building skills. And then we got it. I don't know if he got a job. I should probably check it to see. But I know that now, like, he's more ready for the things that he's seeking that he knows will help him in the long run. Right.
That's
so
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not always about like therapy per se. It's like sometimes we just got to give you the tools.
Exactly.
I got to come see you for that.
Yeah.
Let me build my resume. Anyway, is there anything else you would like to add, or is there anything that you would recommend someone look into if you talk to them today?
So I just launched my website. So you could find me at byptherapy.com. So that's just my soft launch. And then what is something else I would like to leave people with? Honestly, therapy is fun. I think people forget that like the space is your own, so you can create it as you want to. So if you want to make your jokes, if you want to cry, if you want to vent, like it's really a space for you and you can get creative with it. Hopefully you have a therapist who gives you that space for it too. But for the most part, like we're also much like we're humans. We understand what it's like to be on the other side. And a lot of us show up in these spaces because we know what it's like to be on that side, right? And we want to be able to help people see that there are other ways that they can move forward with life, and with their life. And so, therapy's fun.
Yeah, thanks so much, Myriam. It was great talking to you today. This was a really nice space, and I like how our conversation just kind of flowed, and we were able to talk to a lot more in depth about therapy, and humans are complex and funny. And anyway, I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.